So when I start feeling like, oh, I just need to quit, then I think, well, then quit. But don't go to a job that you just don't love. You better just buck up and love it. Welcome back to Teacher Tales, where we give you the keys to overcoming teacher burnout to find work-life balance and educational bliss, if it still exists. On this interview episode of Teacher Tales, adaptability, mentorship, and influence take center stage. We delve into the challenges of planning and unexpected interruptions, discovering the essential role of adaptability. We speak through the significance of mentorship and supportive colleagues. Finally, we explore the lasting impact of loving what you do and witnessing the profound influence teachers can have on students' lives throughout their careers. Lizanne, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for calling me Lizanne.
Yes, of course. I remember you was like, don't call me Ward. I remember that conversation like it was yesterday. I was like, okay, never again.
And it was an uncomfortable conversation. And yet my daughter said, if you don't tell them, they don't know. So I did.
We don't. So it was like, call me Lizanne or you call me Miss Ward or Mrs. Ward. And I was like, okay, done and done. Because the name thing is such... I mean, we're getting off on a tangent already before we start, but names in class is a big thing, especially like with the population that we have, where we have people from other countries of origin. And so I'm always asking kids like, okay, what do you want to be called? If you want me to call your whole name, this long name, okay, I will do it. You just got to let me know how to
say it and keep correcting me until I do say it right. Because there are, 180 of y'all.
It's always funny when you're calling somebody else's name, like, oh yeah, I'm not Jim. That's Jim over there. Like, oh,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm glad to hear it doesn't just happen to me.
Okay, so Lizanne, please, how long have you been in education? What do you teach, and what different roles have you had during that time?
So I've been teaching for 31 years, and I teach computer science. Started out at teaching math and computer science early on. I've been department leader actually off and on, and been doing that for a while. And I've also done some curriculum writing work and stuff because I don't like other people telling me what to teach.
That's always fun when you can kind of write the curriculum and go, okay, this is
exactly
what we're doing, guys. And no one has anything to say about it because
nobody else wants to write it. Exactly. Exactly.
So give us the breadcrumbs. Like, how did you eventually become a teacher? Because you kind of have this winding road.
Yeah, well, I mean, I started out my degree is in computer science, and I worked in industry for about 3 years. And then when my daughter was born, I discovered I didn't want to be a working mom. I always thought I would want to be a working mom. I thought I had this thing, I was going to have a nanny and all kinds of stuff. I just couldn't do any of that. So I stayed home for about 10 years, raising the kids. And I have 4 children. So during that time I was home, I became a Sunday school teacher. I credit her actually with pointing me in this direction at all, because I never would have thought I could do anything like that. And she started me with Sunday school teaching. I taught second grade Sunday school forever. In fact, when I first started thinking about being a teacher, I thought I'd be an elementary teacher, but my degree gave me a different idea. It was easier to get a high school certification than it would be to go back and take more education. Anyway, after all that time being out of computers, a lot of things had changed, and I thought it would be a lot easier to go into education and have the same hours as my kids, and anybody can be a teacher. And yeah.
What would you say was the thing that shocked you the most when you first started teaching?
Oh man, it's just hard. The thing that shocked me the most was the amount of planning and grading, I think, that you have to do. I don't know. It's just how little control you actually have over stuff.
I'm glad you said that. Uh, because we think we have control until something happens, until it breaks out. You're like, oh crap! It's 30 people in here. I got maybe 2 people going crazy. Usually, we're talking about a fight or an argument, and it's not like usually when people are that upset till they get to that level, they're not rational. They're not
Right. Right.
listening. And so I'm like, well, I got these 28 other kids. What do I do with them? So it's like, do I have to call somebody? We have to make all of these like
Well,
split
yeah.
second decisions in the
And
classroom.
not even that level, but when a lesson goes awry and you realize that this is not going the way it needs to go, and you don't have control, over those kinds of things. Those are the kinds of things that AI can't take care of. So,
Right. Yeah. When we all have been in class when you're teaching something and the glazed look and no one's getting it, and or for me, it's like the speeches start happening and they're all just awful. I'm like, what did I
hmm
miss? Like, what
hmm
happened between now and last week to where this is what they thought should be happening, and it's not even close to what I had in my
right,
head.
right. Or nowadays, you have a beautiful lesson planned, and then technology fails you. Or
Mm,
semester exams, and you have no computer internet service. And of course your exams on the computer.
of course they are.
So
Of
yeah,
course they are.
I was just gonna
Go.
say just how do you handle those kinds of situations, and what do you have to do?
Do you think just that experience of going through those different situations, would you say that that is the thing that separates, a new teacher
Yeah.
from an
Oh,
experienced
oh,
one?
very, very, very definitely. I know we had some teachers that totally panicked on because they didn't have anything to do
Mm,
there.
exactly. And so when that happened, I'm like, okay, because we're all looking at the computers and they're all
hmm
blank. I'm like, okay, it's not just one
hmm
person. Like we clearly have some kind of issue here. So I'm like, all right, child, just sit tight. Let me go next door, because you want to see if it's just
Right.
your classroom, your computers, or is it everybody. So I go next door. Ironically, I have a new teacher over there. And I'm like, okay, let's see your laptops. Y'all stuff not working either? Nope. I'm like, oh, okay. All right, so I guess we got to figure out a different exam, and so I just ended up doing
hmm
like some speeches type stuff, and I mean I wouldn't say to my surprise because I feel like she's grown to maybe this place, but she figured it out, even as a new teacher, being there, having that first experience where, at least for a final exam, things go
hmm
awry, and she's like, okay, this is what we're gonna do, and here we
Yep.
go, and that separates, like you agreed, a new teacher or from an experienced teacher, and you accumulate those experiences, and now you kind of like, all right, I've been through this before, or I've been through worse, so I think I can
Or
figure this
you
out.
go, this is not that big a deal. In
Yes.
the grand scheme of things, it's not that big a deal.
How would you describe teaching in the classroom to someone who has never done it before?
Well, like I say, it's hard. Teaching is hard. Um, Kids haven't read all of the education books, so they don't know how they're supposed to respond, and they don't respond just like they're supposed to. And you can't just, you know, you think you're engaging them, and you're not. It's a lot of prep work, and when you get done, you kind of have to grade everything. And while you're grading, you're already thinking of the next thing to do, because you're never
Yeah.
done. I don't know. It's a
Mm-mm.
lot.
Yeah, there you go. That was perfect. You are
You're
never
never
done.
done. Even this break,
So
we're both
with
thinking about
your
what needs to happen when we come back to school. As much as you
uh,
try not to, you are.
well, it's like, okay, for me it's
hmm
reset. I got another 160 names I got to learn, and I got to retrain more kids, to how I do things. So it's all back to
Yeah.
like beginning of the school, kind of. But the good thing is, a lot of these kids had this same class, whatever class they had the first semester, they've had it together, so they're more familiar. as opposed to beginning of the year. A lot of kids, they don't know each other, and they're like, I don't know these people. I don't want to talk to
Yeah.
these people,
I
which
hadn't thought
that
about
doesn't really
that,
work
but
for my
yeah,
class.
especially when you get a lot of freshmen.
Freshmen are, that's a whole different podcast. I can go on and on about freshmen. But speaking of, the different issues that come up in class, now we want to jump into like the burnout, the time management, work life balance
Mm-hmm.
part. And we both have a very unique experience with the burnout, work life balance starting during the COVID
Yeah.
years.
Yeah. Everything's really different since COVID. I mean, when you try to give kids more grace and time and all of this stuff that they need, I mean, there's no doubt that not only their education was interrupted, that their development was somewhat interrupted, I think, because of they having to stay at home.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more, we have to give a lot more, and it's hard to make yourself stop doing all of that sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There comes a time
Yeah.
where you do have,
It was a different
mm-hmm.
mindset during COVID.
and even since COVID, there are some kids that are still stressed and depressed and stuff that you don't know what's going on, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be an additional stressor, but you have to be sometimes.
But at some point, we got to turn the corner. And
Right,
if you haven't done what you're supposed to, you got to take the
right,
zero.
right, right.
So, how do you help these kids get through it? I know for us, we were able to
Yes.
have each other. I'll just say that we did a lot of great things
Mhm.
during COVID. Found out about you running marathons and all of the different things that you like to do. I was just inspired, honestly, by you because of the mindset that you had. And I think it flipped at that time where you go, I really have to take care of myself,
Yeah.
and going down to see your mom and all of that stuff. I think things changed for you, and I was able to kind of have a front row
Yeah,
seat
I
for it.
agree that um, it did change your priorities. You realize that
Mm.
as much as I love my job, and I do think it is a job, it's and as I already said, yeah, if you don't love your job, then why are you still doing it? So when I start getting feeling like, oh, I just need to quit, then I like, you know, well, then quit. But don't go to a job that you just don't
Mm.
love. You better just buck up and love it.
Yeah.
You just, and I do. I love my job. I some days I don't want to be there, yeah, but if you don't, but I don't know. I like teaching. I like the lessons. I like seeing the aha moments in kids. When people
Mm-hmm.
worry about what's happening with our future and stuff with the teenagers, I go, if you teach for a little while, especially high school, you get a glimmer of who they're going to be, and it's really exciting,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
It is. I agree. Because some kids I'm like, this is a star. This is a star
Right.
in the making. And some of them are stars already,
Mm-hmm.
already in high school. They're doing so much. They have all these accolades and awards. They've already started kind of blazing their trail. And when you get to just witness it a little bit, for one semester, you're like, man, I can't
Yeah.
wait to see this kid and their name and in the lights or in the newspaper or on the web or I mean, God willing, maybe they come back and visit you and say you had some little bit of hand in how
Well,
great they've
that's
become.
one of the really cool things about teaching a CTE class, in that I teach
Mm.
all levels, and I do get to see the same kids come back, whether it's you know the consecutive year, or I see him a freshman and then I see him as a senior, and you're like, wow, look at where you've come from. And it's pretty exciting for high school.
And so We talked about like the pressures that kids have and having to make a ton of
Yeah.
decisions. You gave a really great perspective on how you help them get through those difficult times because they have to go through burnout too, just like we do. And part of our job as teachers is to not every kid, but the kids that you do have that connection with. Part of our job is to help them to figure it out and get through those tough times. So, what is your way of doing that?
It's respecting the decision they have made, or are making,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's not the decision you would have made or you want them to make. I mean, you could certainly talk to them about it, but they should be listening to lots of different things, and they do have hard decisions to make. Even the decision,
Mm-hmm.
to apply to which colleges, it's and when to stop applying. I can tell you they have to write an essay over and over and over
Yeah.
again, and they like, I'm done. I don't want to do it anymore. Well, then,
Right.
that's okay. That's your decision. It's not your parents' decision. It's actually yours. So,
Yes. Yes. The more I hope, I wish that we can get that through to them more because there's only so much control your parents should have over your life, especially once you start getting to those
right,
junior, senior years. Like if you're not making your own decisions by then,
right,
I think there's a disconnect, and those kids aren't being done any
right,
justice. They have to learn where the stakes are low. Like in high school, I feel like that's as low as they're going to be,
right,
because once you get out,
right.
they grow. You actually had to go through this with
I
your
did.
own daughter when she went to
Yes,
LT.
yes. We made it to state academic UIL in math, and she chose not to go to that contest and go instead with a band to New York. And it killed my team, and we could have won. And yet, it's her decision. It was her decision to make, and
Mm,
it's rough out there. They all have these kinds of decisions to make. Um,
mm,
even if you don't think they do, they do. They have tough decisions to make.
right. And the thing sometimes we don't think they're tough, but for
Right.
them, as a 14 or 15 or 17 or
Yes.
18-year old, it's tough for them at that point in life. So it's important for us not to minimize those things, but to just support them in their journey, just like we support
Right.
each other. So wow. Okay, so now we are on to our five
Okay.
W's. So why? This is a great answer. Why haven't you retired yet?
Well, some of it is monetary. I'm just worried about the money reaching to the end of when I'm living, especially with no cost of living raises.
Mm-hmm.
But also, it's a big change. I don't know. I know what to expect daily going to school now. What happens
Mm-hmm.
when it's not
Mm-hmm.
that? I know. I know what I'm doing now.
Yeah, and that's a huge step, like we talked about earlier, going from the known to the unknown. And some people are just not ready to figure that out yet. And like you said earlier, you are
I am.
enjoying your job. So why quit and leave a job that you are still finding
Right.
joy from? So if you're out there and people are pushing you to retire from a job that you still like, ignore
Mm-hmm.
those people.
Yes. Yeah. People do ask me all the time, when are you going to retire? My answer is when I'm ready. When I'm ready.
I like it. Okay, where? This one's a little bit different. Where's your happy
Whew.
place?
Where is my happy place?
I know you got a
I
bunch
do.
of
I
them.
have. That's what I'm like. I don't know. Um, where? Um, it's more like a with whom rather than a
Mm,
location. I love being with my family, with my kids and grandkids, with my mom and my sisters. Those are. those are happy things. My in-laws, we go out to dinner with them every other Friday to a Mexican food restaurant. I won't say it's a great one, but we love the company. It is just it's it's a it's people.
That's awesome.
So
We think so much alike in
mhm.
that aspect. It's just about the people. Where
Right.
are the people that I like? I will be
Right,
where that
right. I
is.
mean, even at school, I it's the people that I work with, that I teach, that I work under. It's people.
Okay, when? When did you begin to feel confident in yourself as a teacher?
I haven't yet. I haven't yet reached there. As we said, I do suffer from that imposter thing. I feel like I'm. People think because I've been around so long
31
that I know what
years.
I'm doing, and I don't. I don't know what I'm doing. So,
What's your favorite lesson to teach?
uh, well, like I said, it used to be the first time we had them programming, but kids are growing up programming nowadays. They've done a whole lot of work,
Hmm.
so it's you don't get to see that aha moment. I like the lessons that I can take them away from the computer and show them how things work,
Mm.
not with the computer, like sorting and searching. We do the different sorts that we're required to teach, but I have them stand up and we sort them by how tall they are, or I give them a number. And, there are different
Yeah.
ways to do that without going through the computer. I mean, you eventually have to be able to
Hmm.
encode that algorithm, but seeing that there's a way to do it, I think is fun.
A little bit less
Yes.
screen
Yeah.
time. Who's the student you'll remember forever?
Oh my goodness.
31 years. I'm sure
I
you got a
do.
lot of
I
them.
do. I have one that I keep track of, and she probably doesn't know how much I keep track of what she's doing. But her dad, she was so good in
Hmm.
programming and everything, but her dad told her that she could never make money being a computer scientist. I'm like, sure, right,
Oh my
exactly, I know.
goodness.
But she is a doctor, and so a physician, and she is a really good one, and I see her getting all kinds of accolades. And when she went off to college, she actually was published as an undergraduate because of what she knew in computer science. She could put together a program
Wow.
and for some research team that she worked with. And I don't know, I like following what she's doing. So,
Yep, I got a couple of
mm-hmm.
those too. You're like, I
Yep,
wonder. It's so much easier now with the internet
definitely,
and social media.
definitely.
So that's always great. Okay, last thing. What advice would you give to a new teacher and an experienced teacher?
Well, to a new teacher, you've got to find a mentor. You've got to find somebody that you can cry to, because there are going to be things that
Mm.
even if you do them right, they're going to be wrong. I, teaching that Algebra 1 the first year, and everybody failed the first test, and, you know, do I need to call every one of these parents? How do I fix this? And somebody that is not going to judge
Mm-hmm.
you, you know, I mean, yes, there are things that you can do better, and yes, you want that kind of advice, but you also don't want somebody you know, that's not going to be helpful.
Right, in
Yeah,
your corner.
right, in your corner. I like that. Um, we assign people a mentor, and sometimes that works, and sometimes it doesn't. And when I
Mm-hmm.
started, I was actually an intern. I did not student teach. And as an intern, they assigned me a mentor at school, and I had a mentor at the university. My mentor at school was not helpful, but I did find another teacher that she sat with me all the time and did that. So just because the one that you're assigned doesn't work out, don't stop looking and find somebody that you can talk to.
So one of my favorite things to do as a teacher is to mentor other teachers, just because I know how it was that first year, and the person that taught what I taught just wasn't very helpful. They told me, I'm not going to be very helpful here. So, I'll give you what I have, but it ain't much. And like, I appreciate that honesty, because, okay, I'm like, all right, I don't have to come to this door anymore. This door is definitely closed. But it's hard if you don't have somebody, So
Right.
After I reached out to people all over the district, there was one person, and I always shout that person out. I always have that person's back, because of that time I needed them. So yeah, if you don't have a mentor, get a mentor. I enjoy being a mentor. It's so much fun
I
to me.
agree. I agree.
It's like,
I like it. I find that people don't come to me as a mentor so much anymore. I did do the program where you can be the official mentor, but there was so much paperwork involved with that I was like, I don't have time to deal with that thing.
what advice would you give an
experienced teacher is love what you do. If you don't, you can't inspire kids if you don't love what you do.
Ooh, that's good.
How can they get excited about something that you're not excited about? I don't know. Some of them can. They can.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It's easy to tell.
Some of them can get excited about something that you're not excited about, but still,
Well, Lizanne, I mean, it's been great. I'm so glad that you came on to do this
There
twice
you go.
with me.
So,
All right.
okay.
I think we're good to go. I hope you all enjoyed that conversation between me and Lizanne. It was a pleasure having her on, as I knew it would be. Before we leave, remember this. Adaptability will put you in the best position to make the most of your time in the classroom. This is when you can have the greatest impact on both students and the teachers around you. The more you know, the more you have to offer. Become a mentor. Pay it forward. We all have impact. Have a positive one. Thank you for listening. Keep teaching, keep learning, and I will see you all on the next journey.